Hello everyone, this is Kiran and today we are going to talk about yet another software development lifecycle model, which is spiral model. Let's begin. This is an iterative model and it's a risk driven model. As you can see in the picture, it looks like a spiral which starts from the center and it follows in the shape of a spiral and it completes the software development. Now we all know that these models, they need to complete all the steps of the SDLC. So we'll understand how the SDLC steps are incorporated in this kind of model. So to begin with, we can take an example here which will be easy to understand. Let's say you want to build your own house, okay, and for that you need to go through performing the different stages to complete the creation of your house. So let's understand this using this example. Let's understand spiral model using this example. Now in this model you can see there are four different phases: 1, 2, 3 and 4. The first phase is about requirement gathering and design. So the two stages of the SDLC has been combined here and they fall in the first phase of this spiral. So requirement gathering and design, they are combined here. Then we have new phase which has been implemented here especially for spiral model, which is risk analysis. So identifying risk and resolving them, risk analysis phase. Then we have coding and testing. And finally we have plan for the next iteration. So here there is a customer feedback involved. The customer can have a look on the prototype of this model and there's planning for the next iteration here. We'll understand this entire model using one example, which is building your own house. Let's say you decide that you are going to build a 2-bedroom house apartment. So for that you go to the company who is going to build your house and you explain them, you know, your own requirement that it has to be a 2-bedroom apartment and the size, the dimensions, everything is mentioned. So it starts here with the requirement gathering and planning. Then the risks are involved, risks are analyzed. Whatever risks are involved with creation of that apartment or on that plot, or what all can happen and not happen. If any risks is identified, they'll be resolved, the remedies will be taken care of, and then we'll move to coding, which is about developing the home here, and testing as well. And then there is planning for the next iteration. Now in the next planning you'll be talking about the woodwork, about creation of the woodwork, the doors, the windows, how they are going to be developed. All the planning is done, explained, requirement is gathered, then all the risks are again analyzed and taken care of, then it is actually implemented and then tested, and then demo to the client, and then again feedback from the client and the plan for the next iteration. Now you talk about the electrical fittings in the house, then again risk analyzed, then implementation, and then testing, demo, and then feedback, and then your house is ready after 3 or 4 spirals. So what is happening? You are actually breaking down your requirements into chunks and you are submitting your requirements in each spiral. So the first spiral you began with the dimensions or the measurements or the plot. Then when it was ready, you had a look, you gave your feedback, then you came up with your next set of requirement, which was woodwork. And once you are satisfied with that portion of the work, then you came up with your next set of requirements, which was about the electrical fittings, and then the interiors probably. So you are actually submitting your requirements in small chunks, which will be fulfilled by the company who is working for you, and you will have a prototype every time ready, and you'll have a better vision of what is being developed. So that's how spiral model works. It is based on risk driven approach and is very much customer oriented. So all the steps of SDLC is performed here as well, but we are dividing into 4 different phases: 1, 2, 3 and 4. And first is requirement gathering and design, second is risk analysis, third is coding and testing, and fourth is planning for the next iteration. That's how this model is different from all earlier models which we have studied, one waterfall and V. So it is certainly a risk driven model, which I have already explained. It divides the project into iterations. You can see there are different iterations. One iteration deals with one or more risks. It depends how many risks are identified. And each iteration starts with a small set of requirements and it goes through the development phase. Let's talk about how long to iterate. So until all the major risks are addressed and they are removed and they are ready for installation, until then we have to iterate and keep on removing the risks. Now if you talk about the strengths, it is very good for critical and high risk projects, and high risk functions are developed earlier in this kind of model. There is a lot of customer satisfaction. Why? Because they are able to see the prototype of the product very early after every spiral, and so it's a customer driven model. So the users are tied up to all the life cycles, steps. Feedbacks are welcome. If you talk about the weakness of this model, this model is very costly, because we need to have experts who know about the domain, at the same time who are risk experts, who understand how risk can be resolved. So the resources can be very costly, in terms of hardware, software or manpower. So all the resources can be costly in this kind of model. The time spent in evaluating the risk may be too large if the project is very small. So we should take this model only for medium and large projects. This is a complex model of if the software requirement specification, the SRS, is very clear, then this model, it's a complicated approach, because we are actually coming up with the chunks of requirements with updated feedbacks, with innovations here. Risk assessment expertise is important. That's what we talked about. And the spiral can continue indefinitely, which is again very big drawback. If the client is not satisfied with what is being developed, the updations and the feedbacks continue, then it can go for a longer duration. When do we use this model? For medium to high risk project, when the cost of risk evaluation is important, cost and the risk evaluation is important. When the users are not very much sure of their needs, they are ready for updations, they want to give feedbacks, changes when they want to happen. When it is a new product line, so if it's a new product, it's best to use a spiral, because you can start from the scratch, think about spirals and implement this model. Significant changes are expected, only then we should use this model. So that's about a spiral model, which is a risk based model, and here risk is analyzed, and this model should be used for critical projects where risk assessment is important. Thank you.